Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PatFacts. Patrick here, Pattern Your Back Personal Fitness. Lessons. We're going to talk about lessons tonight. Life lessons that come from sport and fitness with the Olympics going on right now. Wrapping up soon, I believe, towards the end of this week. There's been a lot of lessons learned by athletes, even during the events. And these are athletes who've been competing and training for years and years, and they're still learning. So we're going to go over a few lessons that sport taught me, fitness has taught me, and ways that we can take some of those lessons into real life. So as always, we'd love to hear from you with your lessons, maybe a sport or fitness lesson you've learned along the way, whether it's taking part in a sport or activity or fitness, or maybe it's just from observing and watching. Maybe you're a fan and you like to watch the Olympics or watch other sporting events. What are some lessons maybe you've seen people learn or that you've taken away from watching some of these events and the stories of kind of what's going on? It's not typically just the event itself. There's usually a lead up to it. There's been trials and tribulations to go through, and the media likes to focus on that a lot of the times. But what are some of those lessons that maybe you've taken away from sport and fitness and activity itself? And what have you done to sort of either apply them to everyday life, or how has your life maybe changed because of some lessons that you learned? Or maybe this will open up your memory banks a little bit to think of those lessons that maybe you didn't remember that you learned from sport, but maybe thinking back, oh yeah, I did learn that when I played that sport, or when I took that workshop, or when I went to that camp. There's different lessons and moments that will stick with you. So maybe this will refresh your memory on some of those as well. We can take that trip together down memory lane. Hello, Bonnie. Welcome. Bonnie says, dedication is key. That's a great lesson to learn. Sorry, I'm just going to take this down. Instagram's not working, so we'll just give it a timeout. Dedication is key. You're so right. Dedication, definitely key, and definitely a great lesson for us to bring into everyday life with us. Dedication, we talked here about finding systems, finding processes, finding a system and a way to improve yourself. But consistency and dedication is definitely key. And when you look at these athletes, that's what it takes, the dedication to put in the hours to practice, to work, but also to want to be better. I'm sure you've seen certain athletes get to a certain point and the dedication sort of maybe goes away because they expect it to come to them. Or maybe they've had an easy going because they were the best athlete in their school, in their city, maybe their province or state because of their abilities. And then they get to a really high elite level and then they struggle. They can't compete, they can't keep up. And sometimes, or most of the time, those harder workers, those that are more dedicated, will get on a little further than those that just try to get by on talent alone. So great point, Bonnie, to start us off. Dedication is definitely key, and a lesson that you've learned. And again, if you're not a sporty person, you don't take part in sport even, watch some of them. Take a few moments to watch. And again, the media is all about the story and the backstory and the struggle to get to where this person is. So it can show you some of the lessons they've had to learn along the way, and you can kind of see what they've had to go through, because we see them for that routine or that game or that 9 or 10 seconds or whatever, and that's all we kind of really know typically, unless you really follow the sport and see it on its own. But usually we just see the event and that's it, and maybe we don't see them or hear from them for another 4 years until the next Olympics. But there's lots they have to go through, lots of dedication, like Bonnie said, lots of just lifestyle, and we typically call it a work-life balance. That term is a little off, but basically they need to juggle a few things. Most of the athletes there aren't paid. They're not professional athletes. They have some sponsorships and they have some support, but a lot of them have to work. A lot of them have to juggle that, working and training. A lot of them are parents. They have to juggle that. A few of them now that I've seen, both partners are athletes. So if you're having a family and the mom and the dad, or the mom and the dads, whatever the dynamic is, if both parents are athletes, then both are away. So you have to juggle that sort of thing out too. There's lots of juggling and balancing and shifting and focus to do and to that. So that's a very big skill as well. So I know growing up more with the sports I played weren't as popular when I was in my town when I was younger. So I didn't have the that kind of outlet to be super dedicated to it because there wasn't anything there for me. There was week-long camps and a few things here and there in the sports I wanted to do. There were other sports. I just didn't want to do them for whatever reason. I'm not even sure why the case was, but so sometimes I found it was a little different for me to find that dedication. I had to find it in other ways, and again, learning from some friends who played the sports that were more kind of ongoing, and from those just seeing people on TV, the professional athletes, the Olympians, hearing those stories, being exposed to fitness throughout my life as well, gave me a little more of a background and intro to that. So dedication definitely is there. One key one I wanted to touch on that helped me is leadership. Leadership, we all know there's different times when you're a leader. There's different types of leaders. There's different ways you can be a leader. There's the vocal approach. There's a strong, silent, lead by example type. There's those that are quiet, and then when they need to, they kind of step up and rally the troops. There's some that keep an even keel and keep level-headed, and they lead by showing a calmness and a great mentality. Thinking of Kawhi Leonard being on the Raptors, very calm, very cool, very collected. Didn't really show his emotions other than that one big shot against Philly, if you remember that. Otherwise, very even keel. Didn't get too up, didn't get too down. Whatever happened, okay, move on to the next thing. And you can see now some of those younger players that were there with him have caught on to that and have adapted that and realized maybe that it's okay to be that way. You don't have to thump your chest and jump all over the place when you hit a game-winning shot. You can be cool, calm, and collected and just walk off the court quietly and respectfully. And it's a nice mix. It's a nice balance. So leadership is a big key. And I find, thinking back for me, sport was a huge factor in me becoming the leader that I am today, and specifically soccer. For whatever reason, I was a different person when I played soccer. Typically very quiet, very reserved, very shy, very timid, very observant. I would take in a situation, maybe give a little quip here and there, but not nearly as talkative as I am today. But when on the soccer field, when the game started, I was chatting the whole time. I played a fullback or a defensive position, and I would have eyes on the field. Usually only the keeper was behind me. So I'd have eyes on the field, and I would talk and I guess really thinking of it even as we speak here, I was thinking more leader, but even coaching, I was helping teammates, man on your back, or watch this, or so-and-so's open, or take the ball. You've got time, carry the ball, watch out, let's go, move the wall on defense. Really, that was sort of probably my forte into coaching, but it really came out of my shell on the field. I don't even know what it was or how it happened. I think I just caught on to the atmosphere probably that I had with my earlier coaches in junior who were quite positive and were good leaders. They could get you to run through a brick wall for them because of how they spoke and how they treated us and how they treated each other and the example they set. So I think that's a big one for me. Leadership is a big team sport, or just sports, because you have to lead yourself. We say here, we borrow our quote from Peter Twist: leader of one, leader of many. If you can't lead one, you can't lead any. So learning to lead yourself and maybe others, if you're in that team setting, is a great skill that, again, you'll take into the real world, everyday life. When school's ended, you'll take that into the workforce. You'll know maybe when to step in and be a leader because of certain situations you've been in, just like you'll know when to maybe step back and sit quietly and let someone else take that leadership role when maybe it's their time or their strengths are more suited. We kind of learn some of that give and take. So leadership is a big one as well. And again, just reflecting on what to talk about before the show tonight, thinking of that, how that was a really breakthrough for me. And then it started to transfer into some other sports a little bit, but then I actually decided to not play. I used to play soccer and basketball and some track in high school, and I actually stopped playing basketball and switched to coaching. I became an assistant coach and did actually a little bit in soccer as well, but I kept playing. And I started coaching youth, minor sports as well at a young age. So, but really that soccer field experience and thinking again of probably the first few coaches I had, and even some of those people, those leaders at those camps I went to. Again, there wasn't a soccer league in my town when I grew up. And that's what I wanted to do, but I would go to soccer camps every summer and be part of that. And those rec leaders and those counselors that were there did a great job of kind of, again, giving me the example that I gave back to my community later on when I became a counselor in those camps. So leadership, I think, is a big key. And you'll always hear of the team leader. Maybe it's the captain, maybe it's just the star player, maybe it's just the person that is always early, stays late, works hard. Sometimes they'll call that a lunch pail player because they're hard worker. They always bring their lunch pail and their hard hat because they're ready to work and put in maybe the things that aren't so pretty within the game or the sport, but they get it done for the better of the team. And again, even some of these athletes, they have a team around them. They have a fitness trainer, they have a physical therapist, they have nutritionists, they have people around them to help them and guide them. And again, are going to lead them through certain facets of their life, of their competitions, of their preparation as well. So sometimes they're the leader as far as performing and being out there within the sport or within the team or the event, sorry. But a lot of the times off camera, we'll say, or out of the event, they're maybe in less of a leadership role, and they're listening to their other leaders and their coaches, their trainers, their sports psychologists, helping build a strong mental foundation as well as physical. So again, they can shift through those roles as well. So in everyday life, we learn a little bit of, okay, this project has me written all over it. I'm going to step up and take the lead on this one. Okay, this has more her strength. I'm going to let her take the lead on this one. I'll offer assistant. I'm going to be a team player still, but you know what? This is more her thing. I'm going to take a little step back and let her come into play. Or maybe as a leader, I may have to go over to that person and say, hey, it's your thing. Go ahead, take a step. Take it maybe from, again, quietly, I can say, this is your thing. Take that step. Take that leadership role on this one. We need you to, because you're the talented one when it comes to this type of project. So we learn that give and take. We'll segue into the next one, that kind of cooperation. We learn to be a team player, a teammate. We learn to pass the ball or the puck or whatever it is. We learn to share. We learn to take turns. We learn to partner with people and help each other get better at certain skills and certain things that we're looking to accomplish. Because again, it's a team. A team in sport is like a team in life. Like that, we've called this our community, our team before. It's a group of individuals working toward a common goal. So we learn how to do that and cooperating and helping each other out. And again, that kind of floating leader or knowing when to step in under those leadership roles is part of that cooperation as well. Knowing when to maybe help someone or jump in and give someone an assist to help them when it's needed. And I get some free time. Do you want some help going over that report? Do you want some help working on that spreadsheet? Hey, let's meet after and practice your free throws, your foul shots. Let's get some practice in before the championship game, just to be sure. We can kind of cooperate and help each other that way as well. And sharing the brunt of things. Learning, sharing, again, if it's a team sport, any sport really, because again, there is a team around it, but a team sport, it gets more at the forefront, sharing the wins and the losses. You have to learn how to be gracious as a loser, just as much as you are gracious as a winner. And that's kind of what brought this topic on. One of my coaches, Peter Twist, made a post about some of the comments that were made by the U.S. Soccer team after they lost to Canada. And one of the players said, it's a bitter pill. It's hard to swallow when we never want to lose to Canada. I don't think I've ever lost to Canada, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, so don't post it in the news somewhere, but basically the gist was, I don't want to lose to Canada. And I kind of understood it because there's rivalries. Canada-US soccer is a big rivalry. You'd see that in other sports too, where this team does not want to lose to the crosstown rivals or the inter-province rivals or whatever. But I think just the way it came out and the way it was said didn't really mean it. It almost didn't seem like they valued us as much as they should have as an opponent. And it's been a long time. It's been 20 years or so since we did beat them. And then my coach, one of my coaches, Peter Twist, made a comment about how we should be gracious in defeat, and sports should teach us these things. And he kind of went through his list, and that's what inspired me to do this post, is being trying to be a good person. And we talk about that here on PatFacts. And if you're with me for the 3 wise men and a much wiser lady, we talk about being kind and being good people. And that's what sport really should help us learn, is to be good people, to be gracious in defeat, because we're not going to win every single time. It's not going to happen. So we have to learn how to make the most out of those defeats or those unsuccessful attempts or those failures, those lessons learned, however you want to frame it. We have to decide to make the most out of those and be gracious in them, and understand it's a learning curve, that we can't win every single time. There's going to be times when someone is better than us. Maybe we've been great the whole time for so many months or so many years, and then all of a sudden something, just one off day, can throw us off a little bit, and someone can take our spot. Maybe it's temporarily, maybe it's a permanent thing, but we have to be gracious about it and learn from it and decide, what can we do next time to make sure that doesn't happen? Did we get too far ahead of ourselves? Did we not stick to our plan? Did we change our plan because things were going well? Maybe we shouldn't have. We should have stuck to what brought us here. You see that in sports sometimes too. So again, it's trying to bring things into life. So cooperation, we talked about leadership, dedication, like Bonnie mentioned, having to win and lose graciously, being a good sport about it, sportsmanship, being a good competitor. That's one of the things I looking back again, enjoyed about high school sport, is you could play really hard. And a lot of times I was playing against friends, because we were from a small community, playing the neighboring community where we would see each other at different events or play sports together, or sometimes we ended up working together down the road. So, but we could play hard against each other, compete, but at the end we could shake hands, say good game and mean it, and share a laugh or a quick joke or something after, or talk about the game down the road. So, and I like that. I know NHL, it's a big thing in the Stanley Cup playoffs when they do that at the end of the series. It's a great moment. I like to see it in other sports too, in NBA and things. Watching in the Olympics, watching the women's heptathlon this morning, a couple of the events, because they travel. They're not a team. They're all competing, but because they all compete against each other at various meets and events, they all get to know each other. They're all a community, and you can see them kind of trying to offer support to each other. One lady is having some Achilles issues, and it really bothered her. She had to stop one event this morning, and as she got up and kind of got herself across the finish line, the rest of the competitors were there to meet her and offer kind of a kind word or a shoulder, or just to check on her. And it's really neat to see how things can switch so quickly from you're going down, I'm going to win this, to, oh, I hope she's okay. And that's life. That's what sports should be. It's a moment in time. It's a competition, but everyone's still a person after that. So we should treat each other with the kindness and respect. Yes, compete hard, and yes, when you play, you try to win. But again, be gracious and win or defeat, and be that good sport about it. Treat people with respect. I learned a lot of that from sport, again, from coaches I had. And again, these are lessons I've learned as well from parents and teachers and things too, but just thinking of sport-specific examples for tonight and fitness. But knowing to say thank you to a referee after a game, even if it wasn't that good of a game. But going up and saying thank you, good game, ref, thanks for doing that. The linesmen or the secondary referees, again, giving that good game or that thank you to them for doing what they do, because without them, there's no game. We need the officials to keep things in line. So making sure that we're including that. That's something I learned from seeing coaches and some older players, I believe, and then I was sure to carry that on through my last few years of kind of senior high, playing soccer and things. And when I coached too, with the junior high teams, I would make sure I thanked, shook hands with the ref whenever I could, to make sure that that respect was shown, and they felt appreciated, because refs take a lot of flack and a lot of heat and a lot of abuse sometimes as well, verbal abuse. So I wanted to make sure that they were appreciated for the job that they were doing. And some of the players I had started doing that as well. And I would get compliments from parents and things, say, "Oh, you always go and shake the ref's hand. I really like that. That's nice that you do that." So, it was just something that I picked up from a coach. I think maybe some older players that I was playing with, but it's something I thought that was a nice gesture and a nice way to sort of put an end on the game, almost, to not dwell so much on what had happened. If there was maybe some bad calls I didn't like or things didn't go our way, I just almost close that chapter on it and let us kind of decompress a little bit and mend fences, say, and let it kind of go behind. So again, a very key factor. And again, it relates to everyday life. We hear it. A lot of people say, don't stop comparing yourself to other people. We get into that because of social media. We see the people with the successful businesses, or maybe they're a few steps ahead of us compared to where we want to be. We compare ourselves. Oh, he's doing it. How come I can't? Oh, she's got this. Why don't I have that? And again, we want to be gracious and encouraging for them. We should be happy for them that they're doing what they're doing. That's where they're supposed to be. We're where we're supposed to be right now, building towards that. We'll get there when we're supposed to. So we should keep these lessons going with us throughout life, and be that good sport and be encouraging to a friend or a colleague who's had some success. Just as much as we're there for them when they don't have the success, we should be there to help them, offer an ear or a shoulder if they need to. If they want some advice or guidance, then definitely we can offer that. But again, maybe let them decide if they want that part of it or not. But we should be able to carry over some of these. And again, some of them we get a little forgetful of because we get caught up in the rat race. We get caught up in things coming at us so quickly that we're kind of on to the next thing. But we want to reflect on some of those moments. Just taking a sec here, Marla. Good evening, Marla. Good to see you. It says good sportsmanship makes all the difference, for sure. Definitely makes all the difference. And again, it's one thing to play hard, and I came from a background of, you know what, just go and play. Don't worry so much about the wins and losses. Don't get down on it. Just enjoy. It's a game. It's a sport. Have fun with it. It was sort of the family mentality that I had in the message. And that's what I did for the most part. I had moments, obviously, but I was just playing the sport because I love the sport. If it had taken me places, then so be it. But it wasn't meant to be. But I enjoyed the sport. But I made sure that I was a good sport, and that was, again, kind of taught to me from a young age, that you'll be respectful of the refs, you'll shake hands, have a good time, win or lose, try your best, and then try to put it behind you and go on to the next thing or the next game, depending on what it was. So that good sportsmanship, again, really makes a big difference. And just being polite and cordial to people. Again, you're going to have competitions with people in the real world. Compete, work hard, do your best, and then whatever happens, and try to appreciate them if they've done better than you, if they had maybe the success, and also maybe don't be a jerk about it. If you have the success and they don't gloat about it. Don't rub it in their faces. Know when to maybe turn things down, to let them have their moment, and then you can have your moment after. We want to make sure that we're going to be in good sports. And again, that coach I had in junior high was very good at getting us to learn that, to know, okay, quiet down, like, yep, you win, but let's be respectful. We'd be cheering young kids, right, 13 or 14, whatever, really excited about a win or a big goal or something, and then he'd be, okay, that's it. You celebrate it, let's bring it down, be respectful of the other team. He would teach us these lessons. I remember once our field that we played at and practiced at was close to a cemetery, kind of down the road from a cemetery. And we were having practice one day. Whenever we had practice, we do jumping jacks to kind of end our warm up. We'd all count them together as a team, little team building thing, count to 10, and then we get into the first drill. So we did our warm up, and the coach said, okay, 10 jacks, go. And we started 1, 2, and a hearse came by driving down the road. I believe it was a procession, at least a hearse. And my coach just did this. And we all quieted. We finished our jumping jacks quietly, came in the end, and he just said, we'll be when something like that goes on, we should pay our respects and be respectful to those that have been lost. Just that quick little thing. He put his finger up. He didn't even do anything. Finger up, and we all knew right away because we respected him so much. We stopped counting out loud. We continued the jacks. He gave us the quick lesson afterwards that helped again shape us into people, and then we're on with the game itself. So little things here and there can make a big difference. So maybe you're not a coach per se of a sport team, but maybe you're a leader at work. Maybe you're a parent, a guardian. Maybe you're looking after someone. Maybe you're running a community group. Again, little things can go a long way for good and for bad. I've had bad experiences too, where little things made a big difference in me and kind of set me back a little bit. I'm learning now they happen to me for a reason, so I could be here helping you and know kind of what not to do. But at the time, they were really frustrating. So again, be aware of yourself as a leader and what it is you're doing, what it is you're sharing with those around you. And sometimes just those little lessons can make a huge difference in your athletes or in your teammates and what it is they're looking to accomplish or what they'll learn from this experience. Back to our comments here, Bonnie says, played many sports in my youth, loved team sports. Team effort to win or lose. Yep, you grow within the life lessons for sure, Bonnie. Definitely it was nice to always, again, a small town, I primarily played school sports. There were some community sports in my town, but again, I wasn't interested in baseball and hockey. I was the oddball that didn't want to play either of those, soccer and basketball, or what I wanted to do. So in some aspects, I was a little bit behind some of my friends because they had been on baseball teams or hockey teams together and been through the travel and learned the dynamics. So I had to kind of learn that on the fly. But again, luckily, being in a small town, most of the people I played soccer and basketball and really track and field with in junior high and high school were friends who either I had half of them I had grown up with in elementary school, and the other half I knew from other elementary schools or soccer camps or different events I'd been to. So there was a connection there, maybe basketball camps and things. There was a connection there already, so we could gel pretty quickly because we all knew each other. And we all played together for 6 years, basically, going through junior high and into senior high. So we were able to have that camaraderie. But that team effort, I remember one time, my last couple of years, one of our players decided he didn't want to be goalie anymore. He'd been goalie for years and just was kind of burnt out of it. And we're trying to get him to say, like just do this one last year with us. And next year, another guy's coming up who's a keeper. He'll take over. You can play out then. Let's finish the year together. And he just was tired of it and burnt out from it and wanted to play out. So he came out, and that totally shifted the dynamic of our team because we had to take one of our kind of decent field players and put him in net. And then that shifted everything and made a difference in the team dynamic. And we were close to playoffs and end of the season, and it really made a big shift in what it was we were doing. So that team effort kind of frayed a little bit there. We played as a team, but the team was different and people were put in different positions, and that changed the dynamic of the team. And really, just the mentality of the team changed a lot there. So little tweaks and adjustments. Be sure, again, if you're a leader of a group, make sure the adjustments make sense. Make sure the changes make sense. Make sure there's a way to do it smoothly that's not so sudden, so people can adapt and adjust to it and do what they need to do. And again, if you're not a leader of a team, as a leader of yourself, same thing. Make sure the changes make sense. Don't just change for the sake of changing, and don't always think you have to change because something's not working. Again, go through, give yourself the time to make sure what it is you're trying is actually working or not working. And then maybe you need to tweak more so than a change. Maybe a little tweak and adjustment will help with what it is you're looking to accomplish. But again, everything should be calculated in what it is we're doing. So rather than maybe being so reactive like this instance and making that change, if there had maybe been a proactive approach, maybe if the player had mentioned it earlier in the season, maybe we could have rotated the keepers out here and there. Maybe we could have him play out a bit and the other person gets some experience in goal before we went to a playoff game and kind of made that change. We could have got used to playing with this person because we knew if he was behind us, we were in very, very good shape. He was a great keeper. But with him out in front of us, we just didn't know how he would play. And he didn't know really how to play with us because he had always been back there seeing us and helping, and he'd be with me kind of coaching and talking to everybody. But he hadn't really been out with us to play other than maybe a summer, but he wasn't there that much either. So again, it's just changed the flow and the dynamic. So maybe if maybe he had realized sooner, or even just mentioned it sooner, that they could have brought some sort of system into play where maybe we had 2 keepers, because then that probably would have been better for us, because if he got hurt, we didn't really have anyone to play. We were just fortunate that he was very durable and didn't get hurt. So it would have been maybe a better situation for the team in the long run as well, had we been maybe more proactive instead of reactive about it. So again, think back to some of these times where, and again, this is just kind of coming to me as we're talking here, that sort of that preactive maybe state maybe would have been better for us. So think back to some of your lessons, think back to some of your experiences in a sports setting, even in a group setting. If you're maybe weren't into sports, but part of a club or an activity group, a common interest group, thinking of that and how things work, some of those lessons that you maybe learned along the way. Marla's got too many in the leadership role are afraid to change or tweak. That's true too. Yeah, they get stuck in a pattern, same plays, and etc. You must be willing to make changes for sure. And that's the other end of it. It's knowing when the change has to be made and understanding that, you know what, the other team knows this play. They know what we're going to do. They know we're going to pass it to that person at this time. So we've got to change it up. They know we're going to pick them up at half court and play defense. So let's pick them up as soon as we score. Let's do a full court press. Let's change things that way. There's a lot of different adjustments you can make. So again, that's a great point, Marla. If change is coming, make sure it's calculated, but at the same time, don't be afraid to change when it's a good time to do so. And again, it takes calculation. Again, sports, and also for us, know when you need to change your workout. When do you need to tweak things a little bit? When do you need to change your nutrition? When do you need to maybe change your sleep patterns to better match your workout and your nutrition to get better results? Or when you need to say, you know what, I just need to tweak things just a little bit. I'm doing okay, but if I just did a little adjustment, I'd do even better. And as a coach, I do that a lot with my clients. I won't change their workout program, but I'll tweak it. I'll start them, say, on a bench to do a bench press, and then I'll say, okay, now let's get a stability ball. Now let's stand on a BOSU and do something. Now let's use tubing instead of weights, or let's use some bands, or now I'm going to give a little push to you as you're trying to do this exercise. So you have to stabilize and keep yourself going as well. What I want you to think of is what times work for you and when the change is necessary. But again, it should all be calculated. And we come back to tracking and making sure we're aware of what we've been doing, so we can know if we need to change things, or if we need to keep things going the way they are. But that's a great point as well. Marla agrees with me. I think I lost her because Twitch has apparently cut me off. But Bonnie says, stop eating chips, for sure. That's a change that we made together a few months ago for a couple of months. And I think Bonnie has too. I've brought them back in, but I do notice that I'm not having them quite as much as I was before. And that was kind of the reason why I decided, again, challenged by one of my other coaches, Todd Durkin, to give them up for the month, because I was just overdoing it. It was too easy to grab a bag when I was doing some work at the computer or just watching a show. And it just got to be too much. So Marla, I hope you're with us still on Twitch. Twitch cut me off for a bit, but it looks like we're back on. But again, I typically with clients, I would choose to say, let's scale back on the chips. Let's not have chips so much, or let's plan when you're going to have your chips, so you can kind of structure it out a little better and have better results. But again, for me and those, the Bonnie and those that join in with us, I decided, you know what, it's been too much. I need a break from it just to challenge myself and almost detox from them a little bit. And that was a big challenge, a big change that I made. And again, now I've gone back to having them, once because I really enjoyed them, but I'm not having them quite as much as I used to. I'm trying to not overdo it too much on the chips, but just have a few to enjoy myself. So yeah, thinking of ways you can make those changes to be a little better. But again, knowing when and how and why the change is happening are all good factors to keep in mind. Not just changing for change's sake. And sometimes you see that in sport a lot, where maybe a team isn't doing quite so well and they cut the coach, or they trade a player when maybe they just needed a little redirection. Maybe they needed, like Marla said, maybe they just needed to change the plays a little bit. Maybe they just needed to change the strategies. And you can see that in work sometimes too, workplaces where, again, we get into that strategy, we get into a system, and we're afraid to change it, even though maybe as a leader, say I'm the same, but my staff has changed. And I have to change my approach. I have to change the strategies. I have to change how I'm going to approach things. I have to be able to evolve. And generally in sport and in life, there's going to be multiple people on my team that require different things. Some are good with me being in their face and giving them a little, let's go, let's get after it. Some are better if I stay behind and just casually talk to them about it. Some need me to listen and then give a little bit of guidance. There's different ways to approach it and talk to it. There's different motivations for people. So as a leader and a coach, we have to learn all that. As a captain, as a leader on a team, as a teammate, you have to know, you have to learn, okay, how does Bill like it when I pass him the basketball? He likes a bounce pass out in front of him so he can catch it and go to the net. Okay, bang. How does this person likes it here? Okay, off the jump ball, if I hit it far enough, this person can get to it and catch. I know he's quick. So if I just get possession, I know he'll get the ball and get to it if I can't get it right to him. You have to learn and know these things and juggle these personalities and juggle these preferences for you and for them to know, again, what's going to make the team perform at an optimal level. And again, these are all lessons that we take into everyday life, whether you're still in a team at work, in your family situation, again, community groups, whatever, or thinking of it just as yourself. You have to know how to talk to yourself. We talked last week about self-love and love and just talking better to ourselves. That comes from a leadership role of deciding, you know what, I'm going to speak positively to myself. I'm going to do my best to have more positive thoughts and self-talk in a day than negative, and trying to work through that. You have to be in that leadership role and know what works for you, know how you respond, what's going to work for you, whether it's maybe it's pencil and paper, writing things down, maybe it's your phone, having things electronically. You have to know what works for you. You have to know what systems and strategies and motivations and inspirations work for you to get you going. And again, same thing playing sports. You have to know. And again, there's times where I had coaches who were great at just almost making the team think that, oh, this is what I want, because they were so good at it. But they could be good at us individually as well, if that makes sense. It didn't come out how I wanted, but when speaking to the team, there was kind of one way and everyone bought in. But he was very good at knowing who he could kind of maybe get on their case, or who he needed to take aside quietly and say, you know what, when this happened, this play, try doing this instead. You do this really well, but let's try to add this in. Okay, coach, thanks. He was very good on an individual and a team basis as well. And again, that's what we need to do. We need to know how to talk to ourselves, how to talk to others, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and try to eliminate some of that stuff that doesn't work for us and make tweaks and changes where we need to as we go through. So again, just some different lessons and kind of a different, I want to take a little bit of a different approach to it than usual. You hear about the sportsmanship and the cooperation, and we talked about that too, but just looking at some of that leadership role and really trying to encourage you to look back on your sport experiences. Hopefully look at those good moments to bring those back into the front, but maybe revisit some of those tough moments and see why they were there, maybe understand them. Like I said, one of my tough moments I held on to forever and was big baggage, but I understood probably about 6 months ago during the PatFacts talking about it that, hey, that happened to me, so I knew what not to do, so that when I'm here with you or with one-on-one with a client, I know how to approach it properly and how to not handle it, because it could have an effect on that person. So now I've accepted that as a lesson more so than something that happened to me. It happened for me to grow and learn from. So that's what I'd encourage you to do if you're watching a recording or if you're still with us live. Again, I'd love to hear your lessons that you learned in sport. And maybe if you reflect back, maybe something you didn't realize that you learned. Do you ever do that? You think, I didn't learn anything in school. And then you blurb something out and go, oh, I did learn that. Same thing with sport. There's probably lessons and moments that happened that shaped you into the person that you are. So think back on them, reflect, and then share with us. If you're watching a recording, even if you're here live, come back to the recording and hit the comments and let us know. And then again, we can share these things together and help each other continue to grow and evolve and ascend to the end and get a little bit better every single day. So I'd love to hear from you on what those examples are. That's it for me for tonight. Again, I just wanted to touch base and that post by Coach Peter Twist kind of sparked it in me to bring that up and chat about it a little bit and just try to relate it. We always say sports builds these characters and characteristics, but what happens after sport? Let's look for that tie-in. Let's look for where we're still using those lessons in our day-to-day life. So hopefully you get some positivity from that. Thanks, Bonnie. Awesome insight. I appreciate the feedback. And for next week, we're going to talk about perseverance. So again, the Olympics are happening. They're wrapping up soon. They'll be done by the time we meet next week. And I was going to talk about it tonight, but the coaching side and the sport lesson came up, and I thought that was something I wanted to touch on first. But perseverance, we're going to touch on next week. And there's two athletes, Team Canada athletes that I want to focus on and touch base on. And again, kind of like we said tonight, we see them in the event, in the moment, but there's so much more they have to go through. And two of these examples have gone through so much outside of their sport to get to their sport for this 2020 Olympics happening in 2021. So tune in next week, 6 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram if it works, for PatFacts. We're going to talk about perseverance and how important perseverance is, again, in everyday life, and how we can learn from it and help us grow into the person that we want to become. So thanks so much for being here, everyone. Enjoy your night and the rest of your week. Again, the virtual fitness platform and the online coaching information is coming out very, very soon. I want to get ready for a September launch, basically. So stay tuned for that. If you're interested, send me a DM and I can send you a few details now. Hammering out the last little bit, but I can give you kind of an idea what's going to come if you're interested. Have a great night, everyone. Remember, always make yourself the priority you deserve to be by striving to be operationally fit. Stay safe, gang. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.